Oh yeah, oh, right now. We're touching the ground. I'm on a hunt, I'm after you. Smell like a sound, I'm lost in a crowd. And I'm hungry like a wolf. I got a little line, who's distorted and right. Well, when I wind, I'm after you. My mouth is alive and running inside. And I'm hungry like a wolf.
Good afternoon, Jehovah's Witnesses.
Hey, I called a couple hours ago and was talking to somebody. I didn't get his name. He was answering a question for me about the society's current stance on an issue. Would it be possible to talk to him again?
All right, one moment, please.
Thanks.
Writing department?
Hey, how you doing? I don't remember if it was you I talked to earlier about the organ transplants.
No. Was that recently that you talked to someone about organ transplant? Was that recently that you talked to someone about organ transplant?
It was like probably about 2 hours ago.
About 2 hours ago. Can you hold on, please? I'll see if I can find the desk that was assisting you.
Okay. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for holding. Apparently the individual that was helping you is not here.
That's
okay. How
okay.
can we be of assistance?
Well, I got kind of a touchy situation, and I don't want to take too much of your time, but I figured I should probably just call you guys and maybe ask directly.
Are you one of Jehovah's Witnesses?
Yeah, so what happened was I was talking to my mom about 2 weeks ago.
You were talking to what? I'm sorry?
I was talking to my mom about 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
And it turns out my aunt and uncle, I was just asking her like why she thought that, like, my aunt and uncle never got disfellowship, but they stopped going to the meetings, and I see them maybe like twice a year or so. And she was saying that in the late 70s, I had a cousin who was 3 years old, and she drank poison, and she died because she had like kidney failure. And so I said, well, why didn't they just get her a transplant? And my mom told me that back then the society was against transplants, and I had never heard of that. And so I also asked like two of the elders in my hall, and one of them was saying basically it's just, there's the resurrection, so let's just trust in that, and I agree with that. But another one was saying that he was thinking that the society's stance on transplants had always been that it was a conscience issue, and that's what I'd heard. And so I called in because I wanted, basically the whole gist of the matter is like I wanted to be able to just have something positive to say to my uncle next time I see him, and maybe just try to encourage him, I guess, a little bit, because I mean it's, his daughter died, and I talked to my uncle actually. I gave him a call last week, and it was a very difficult phone call. Because basically what I came away with was he kind of like blames the truth. He blames the society for his daughter dying. Because what he told me, and I was trying to get some confirmation on this because I couldn't find anything, but then I found I have a second copy of the Watchtower Library, so I was just able to confirm it. But I guess the reason I'm calling you is because I don't know really what to say to him. Because I was looking, and I guess the November 15th, 1967 Watchtower, I wrote it down here, it says that, and this is like what my uncle told me, and I had to look it up to confirm it, but I guess back then the reason they wouldn't give his daughter a transplant, the brothers were saying that it would be an act of cannibalism. And so they were supposed to, he was basically just encouraged to trust in Jehovah and not get the transplant, and his daughter died. And it kind of just like, I mean, my heart goes out to him. I mean, like, it basically kind of just, it really hurt the family. I mean, obviously his daughter died and everything. And then what I'm trying to wrap my mind around, what I'm asking you is, in 1980 is when they changed it to a conscience matter and said that there was no biblical command forbidding the transplants, and it's a matter for personal decision. This is kind of a very difficult thing. What do you think I could tell my uncle that would kind of help put him at ease? What do you think I could say to him that might be able to encourage him and get him to kind of, just trust in Jehovah again and be able to kind of get past this?
So what congregation is your uncle in?
He hasn't been to a meeting, I think, in like 15 years.
And where does he live?
He lives well they moved away, and that's why, like I told you, I only see him like about twice a year or so. He lives up in Wisconsin.
We can certainly have some elders give him a call. You know where he lives in Wisconsin? We can have some local elders give him a call.
And that's exactly what I suggested for him, and I told him that I would be, more than happy to make the calls myself, and he was really, I mean, he got like mad at me for bringing that up. So I mean, I just think that while I would love to do that, I don't think that's an option right now. I just want to be a little bit tactful. And so all I'm saying is, like, I mean, because I'm really racking my brain, like, what do you think we might be able to just say to him? Maybe a scripture or something to share with him that would help just kind of ease this situation.
Well, I think it would really depend on your uncle and basically how
Because I
open
know
he
he
is.
loves Jehovah. He's just very, this is something that he's very bitter about. I think his heart is still in the right place. He's just, I mean, he lost his little girl, and it's a very heart-wrenching thing to even hear him talk about.
You said that you were using a 67 watchtower.
That's what I found. Yeah, it's November 15, 1967. And if you were to just do a search in there, um, that's what I thought was really kind of, I mean, I can see why he's very, distraught at the whole situation. I get it, I'm just looking for any type of thing that I could use to help build him up and, get him maybe back in the mindset he needs to be in.
And that might be the thing is trying to help him to focus on the hope for the future.
Yeah.
And at times when we have someone that we have loved that has been lost in death for whatever reason that might be,
I mean, it seems like it's
one
made
of the
him.
most difficult things because death in itself is not natural.
I know, and I tried to tell him that there's the resurrection, and he said that I wasn't getting, like, I've never been in his position, obviously, and it's a terrible thing to be in. But he said that the idea of the resurrection didn't help him much. What he was so mad about, I guess, is that, I mean, like 3 years later, after his daughter died, they came out and reversed and went from being something that was, like how we would view blood transfusions, to like
Well, I think
to
there's
being like
a
a
slight
conscience issue.
misunderstanding there because we have left that up to the conscience. We basically, even in 67, as you'll notice, it's a decision for each individual to make. It just gave us scriptural principles at that time that were being considered because transplant in 1967 was fairly new. It wasn't something that was widely being used. It was basically new medicine, at that time. Were you even alive in 67?
No, that was a little bit before my time, but
But as medical science basically came along, it became much more proficient as well. There's a lot of blood involved in the operations back in '67, and but since that time, and I have no idea, basically how or how your grandfather may have perceived the information back in '67. But you'll notice, you read it carefully, it does leave it up to the individual. And there was not a high rate of success with some of their transplants back in the '60s and early '70s, if you might
yeah.
recall.
Well,
There's a lot of rejection issues, tissue rejection.
I'm sure that the
Science was not
technology has come along. I guess he's
That's
just
why,
he's
that's why I think if you help your grandfather, to look at the overall picture of the truth and help him to see that while Bible principles many times, as we look at Bible principles and have to decide for ourselves what we should do, some would have decided to do it and others wouldn't, and no one would have been condemned either way. And it may be that your grandfather is just suffering from his guilt, feelings of guilt.
Well, I
Maybe
mean
he
the
feels that he could have done something more, or that he should not have done something. But, and I'm not sure what that was your, who would that have been that passed away?
that was actually my uncle, so it would have been a cousin of mine at this point.
A cousin of yours, yeah.
So let
And what
me
congregation do you attend?
yeah. Okay, so I'm pulling up the 67. I'm gonna let you go. I gotta run in here in a minute myself too. Like I
Yeah, I was
said,
just
I was
checking
just
what congregation you're in, so we might be able to get your local elders to assist you as well. Have you talked with your local elders?
I have, like I said, it's just like, they got a lot on their plate. I understand, and I basically had one of them that's just kind of like, well, if that's the way it was, then there's the resurrection. Which, I mean, yeah, I get that. Let me just look up this 67 because I'm pretty sure that it wasn't in 67. It was actually saying trusting in God not to get a transplant. Let me look this up. I gotta find it again. Just because I want to have something to come
Well, I would,
to my
instead
uncle
of going
with.
back to 67, I would, you know how a scab, sometimes if you have someone that has, a particular issue, it's not, good therapy, nor is it cognitively well for an individual to go back and to go over past hurts.
Oh, I'm
What
definitely
we
not trying
focus on,
to. Oh, I
what we try to focus on is
yeah.
what is now and the hope for the future.
Yeah, I'm
And
not trying to pull a scab off, and hurt him. I'm trying to maybe help put things in perspective, I guess. Okay, so I have the 67 Watchtower. I don't know, do you have it in front of you too?
I do.
And that's why I'm trying to, like, I want to just be able I want to be able to just pull something good out of this whole thing. I feel so bad for him, and I feel horrible that he blames the Watchtower for this. And I just want to have, maybe I'll just drop the whole thing and just stop worrying about it. But I thought it would be so nice just to give him something positive to think about. Um, Hang on here. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, and
I'm
I think
reading
that's
that, and
the
yeah,
important thing, is to help people.
I can
Is
see
to
what
help.
his point is. In 67, it was saying that, like the Watchtower says, be a practice abhorrent to all civilized people. It's not in our place to decide which operations are advisable from a scientific and medical standpoint.
There you go.
But it
So
is, basically, I can see because like the article is leaning way again. I mean, it basically it
well,
said
you
it would
see,
be
it says that a person
cannibalism.
might feel that he could stipulate that his body not be used in that way. There are degree words in there. Could, might, but some refuse, others don't. So
Yeah.
basically, the issue is left to the individual. The answer was given according to medical science in 1967. So one would have to be able to understand the context of the issue in 1967 when this particular article was written.
Yeah.
But we come up to date now, and then we come to find out that, some that actually went through transplants in the 60s and 70s died horrible death because of rejection.
And that just shows like the wonderful evolution. I think. I mean, not that we really, evolution, but like
Well, the medical
the
technology.
advancement. Because I was looking at like I think the first time that transplant was even mentioned in a Watchtower I looked was in 1961, and they were saying that basically, this is a new technology and it's a wonderful thing, and it's interesting to see like how far man has evolved. It said that there's no scriptural principles, there's no laws involved, so and even back in 61, it was saying that it was a conscience issue. So that's interesting to see
Yep,
there. I might want to point that
67
out
was
too.
a conscience issue. Now, how your grandfather perceived it, or how he discussed it with others, we don't know.
Yeah.
But
Well, it was my uncle again, but he was and this is the thing I don't really get. Like, why would he? I mean, how long have you been in the truth? Like, would you have been around like back in the 70s? I mean, no offense, I'm not calling you old or anything. You know what I mean? Just I wanted to kind of
yeah,
see
no,
like,
we're
because
aware of the we're aware of our history.
because he was saying like at the conventions, like the brothers were saying like people like it's been documented that people have had like what was he saying like I mean, it sounded crazy. He was saying that people that have had transplants have actually inherited the like the traits of the people that the organ came from. And he told me that supposedly he heard that at a convention, and I just don't know if he's maybe misremembering that or what, but that just sounded
Oh,
really
but
weird, especially.
there's the psychology that goes along with transplantation as well.
What do you mean?
And well, there's a psychology that basically deals with those who are survivors and basically deal with transplanted organs, major transplanted organs. But there's nothing of a physical phenomena. You can't trace it to the physical phenomena of having the actual transplanted organ.
Really?
People have psychological issues sometimes.
I mean, I just thought it was just a physical thing. I didn't know that. I'm gonna have to look that up.
Yeah. I think, basically individuals that deal with survival after major transplants, you'll find quite a bit of information.
What do you, so like their persona, like their mental outlook, like that will actually change?
Oh, emotional,
Interesting.
it's just like sometimes individuals who have heart surgery, do have some physical things that happen to them as a result, but it's not anything that is of a bad nature. It's just the physical science of it.
Well, no,
People lose their
he
appetite.
was saying that there was a mental, like like you can actually inherit like I don't know, the whole thing is crazy. I'm gonna just look at this and try to just maybe pray on it, and
Yeah.
just kind of see where this goes, because I mean it's a really sad thing that I mean I know that his that was his little girl, and so I can see why that would just tear him
Yes.
apart.
What was your name, my brother?
Yeah, I'm Tony.
Tony. And what was your last name, Tony?
Fitzgerald. It's a weird spelling.
Fitzgerald. Okay.
Yeah, with the J.
Okay, now you said you've called here before and talked with another desk on this subject?
Yeah, it was this morning, probably about you're an hour ahead. That would have probably been about 11 o'clock your time.
Okay,
He's
and what
probably
did the desk help you to, then? How did they help you?
He gave me because at that point I was just kind of shooting from the hip. I didn't have my other copy of the Watchtower Library, and I was trying to. I was just desperate for something. I just he pointed me towards the March 1st, 1980 Watchtower. And it was saying there's, basically it's just, personal decision. And he told me just to do some more research. And, you know, I just figured that if anybody was an authority on the whole thing, that it would probably be, like I'm talking to him right now. And I really do appreciate your help.
Okay, and you say you've talked with some of your local elders there?
Yeah, in
congregation?
passing, I mean, like I brought it up, and I don't think they kind of understood how important it was to me, so I don't blame them. I mean, and like he said, I mean, there's the resurrection hope anyways, so it doesn't,
Well,
we
we don't
have,
minimize, the loss of someone with the resurrection hope, but we try to help people, especially things that have happened so many decades ago.
yeah,
There may be something in your uncle's mind that, who would be able to spiritually help them. Maybe one of the elders in the local area could call on them. He's been inactive for a number of years, so many times, we can find an experienced elder that has a lot of empathy and has that quality as a strength.
yeah,
And many times can go and listen and then see if they can help them to move past
yeah,
the actual incident and
yeah.
the pain, that they can help them cope with the pain.
It's kind of just, I think maybe I should not talk about this situation with my uncle, because my mom yeah, I mean, yeah, talking to my mom too, she was saying that was, that was kind of just that was the perception back then, was that generally, like transplants were just, kind of on the kibosh, like we didn't mess with them. That I'm going to talk to my mom. I'm going to get off the phone with you. I'm going to talk to her, because that's interesting, because
There's nothing in the written literature. It just makes it very plain that it's up to the individual. At that time, there was very little that was known on the subject.
yeah, I figure I just want to kind of.
The information was presented for the Christian to.
This is it, you guys. This is the pulled pork bologna sandwich right here. Questions from readers. This is the 67 article this guy's talking about. 1, 2, 3, 4 paragraphs down. The Watchtower condemns transplants right here in black and white. Those who submit to such operations are thus living off the flesh of another human. That is cannibalistic. They're using Genesis 9, 5, and 6. They're making the argument that eating a body part of a human to stay alive is cannibalism. And so is having an operation where you're living off the flesh of another human is cannibalistic. Jehovah God did not grant permission for humans to try to perpetuate their lives by cannibalistically taking into bodies human flesh, whether chewed or in the form of whole organs or body parts taken from others. And that's a Watchtower quote. That's not quoting anybody else. Down here, they do quote the discussion of cannibalism in the Encyclopedia of Religion and Ethics. But the Watchtower itself specifically calls transplants cannibalism. And since no true Christian would want to be a cannibal, if you're going to please Jehovah, you're not going to get a transplant. Busted!
Bear in mind certain things, but we know that it's not a issue of cannibalism. And if you read carefully, that was not our quotation. That was a quotation from, I believe, another source that was considered, wasn't it?
I closed it already. I'll have to look it up again for a third time.
I don't think it was a Watchtower quote of cannibalism. I think it was a Encyclopedia of Religion and Ethics or something of that nature.
So
it
then,
but it was just a variety of comments from different sources that would help to give some kind of knowledge about that particular subject, which was very new in the 60s. And,
so the zeitgeist... The zeitgeist, like the beliefs back then, was that, yeah, it is technically a conscience issue, but people just didn't really do it.
Say that again? Sorry?
I'm just saying, like, the zeitgeist, like the feeling of the time was just that, yeah, it is technically a conscience issue, but we really, it's kind of like discouraged.
Well, I don't even think those words are used there. I think, that's why, it's important to read very carefully what is stated. It doesn't say conscience, but it's discouraged.
Well, and I'm trying to figure out why, why they would think that then, because, this 67 Watchtower seems to be pretty black and white about the whole thing. So,
well, it's not black and white, though, is it? It's a conscience issue. Which
yeah, I'm just saying, but they seem to take it like, we cannot do this in order to be loyal to Jehovah, and I'm trying to figure out where they got that from.
And
so
I would not know. I would not know. I think, that's for each individual to decide. Perhaps they came to that conclusion, and now because they came to that conclusion, they basically feel, maybe they should have come to another conclusion. But the fact of the matter is that their daughter was lost in death, unfortunately, and whether or not a transplant would have been the solution for her in the 60s or the early 70s.
It was like 77.
Because the success rate was not very good. But having said that, we just don't know. These are some of the things that we just don't know. But on the other hand, you being a relative as well, Brother Fitzpatrick. Is that what you said?
Fitzgerald.
I'm sorry, Fitzgerald. That basically, sometimes the relatives may be able to offer comfort, but it may be just someone that they don't know within the family that they would be able to express themselves to a little bit more openly.
Yeah.
And that's why we offer that particular service. So if you feel like that would
I think that if something like that was to happen, I'm gonna pray on this for a little while, and I'm gonna because I was just thinking when you were telling me that, like, maybe that would be an option, like if somebody from the family like me was there. I don't know. But I'm gonna pray on it and see what happens here. I gotta run. I got some place I gotta go. I so appreciate talking to you. Thank you so much for everything you've done. I really appreciate that. All right.
Hope we've been some help.
All right. You have a nice day. All right.
Okay.